Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is John S. Ray's Oberlin College Diary, 1944, Part 6. This was originally published as a Zook Family Memories Collection, CFMC number 18, published on March 29th, 1989. So this is from June 4th starting in June 4th, including his adventures hitchhiking out west in the summer of 1944. Okay, so here we go. June 4th, 1944. Oberlin College, Oberlin, Ohio. Gretch, her sister Gerda, Bruce, and I went out to the quarry this morning and got back about 5 this afternoon. Gerda is only 16 and not too fine looking, but it was still a good day. I fell asleep reading history this evening. We pulled some pretty damn low tricks here in the house this evening also. June 5th, 1944. I got an 81 on the last history blue book. The calculus is getting tougher again with triple integration to get volumes. I'm fairly well done with my volumetric iron. I had some more fun this evening with the lads about our black market brew. Bruce Partridge and I are making plans for our proposed hitchhiking trip through the West. June 6th, 1944. The invasion of France began this morning at 1 a.m. our time. D-Day, Normandy. It's going along okay so far. Now down to first things. I flubbed a chemistry quiz this morning and turned in my volumetric iron this afternoon. We're in moments by triple integration now. Not too fine. The weather is getting much colder. June 7th. I got another A on a German paper this morning. Duffy and I called off our date for this evening because we're having 3 dates over this next weekend, and I have a chemistry blue book next Tuesday to study for. I worked on German and chemistry this evening. June 8th. I got another A on a German paper and got 93 on volumetric iron, 10 over 10, and 6 over 20 on 2 chemistry quizzes. I worked on my copper unknown this afternoon and got in quite a bit of study this evening. I hope our little binge doesn't get rained out tomorrow night. June 9th. The history lectures have been very good lately. He's been lecturing on the immediate backgrounds of Germany, Italy, Russia, Spain, and France. Good stuff to know. I worked on my copper unknown again. It's been looking like rain all day, and this evening, just as we got out to McCaskey's Grove, it really poured. We stood around in it, drinking and laughing until it was over. More damn fun. Duffy and I had quite a talk on the little Japanese bridge. She nearly fell through the bridge when Ava got sick. Ava had too much of my personally made-up brew. We were still soaking wet when we got back to Gables, but we had a really terrific hour out on the side porch. June 10th. I was very dopey this morning. I worked on copper unknown all of 2 hours this morning after German class and slept most of the afternoon. It took us almost 3 hours altogether to get out to Euclid Beach in Cleveland. Then we decided to go over to Duffy's house in Chagrin Falls for the night, because the last bus for Oberlin left about 3 hours too early to suit us. We made it over there okay, and got to bed about 4:30 a.m. I think we took in just about everything at Euclid Beach and really had a terrific evening. A fine sequel to last night. The dance floor at Euclid Beach was probably the smoothest one I've ever been on. June 11th. We had all of 4 hours sleep last night. Mrs. Duffy fixed a delicious breakfast for us, and Pop Duffy raced the P.O. trolley to the station so we could make it. We waited around in Cleveland for a bus which didn't come, and then took a car across Cleveland to Rocky River. The 4 of us made better time hitchhiking to Oberlin than we would have on the bus. We got back here about 1, and then Duffy and I went out to the quarry. The water was almost too cold for swimming, so we didn't go in at all, just laid down on our big rock. The family pulled a surprise and came over. Bruce very tactfully brought them out to the quarry, and then came and got me, and we both went back to the car. I believe the folks are just about talked into our trip to the West. It was good to see all of them. Then Duff and I spent 3 more hours at the quarry and got back into town about 10:15. We're not having any more dates until a week from Thursday. All kidding aside, we're really going to have to watch ourselves over commencement weekend, if tonight was any indication of what might happen. As I think about it, this is very probably the most delightfully dissipated weekend I've ever spent, especially in Oberlin. I'm dead. June 12th. Dawn bright and clear this morning. I felt like part of the bed when I woke up. However, Duff and I both lived through okay. I've been studying for the chemistry blue book. June 13th. I probably got a D plus on the chemistry blue book, turned in the last unknown this afternoon, and helped Hudson with his calculus this evening, and didn't get my own work done right. I am very sleepy. June 14th. I picked up a stinky C on a German paper. The history final will be a bitch to prepare for. I started work on it this evening. It's been a beautiful warm day. Bruce and I worked a while on our itinerary for the little jaunt. June 15th. Finished off both France and Germany today. Checked in my chemistry desk. Tony said I got a 96 on my copper. Pretty lucky. We moved some trunks at Yacht Club this evening. I've worked on history most of the evening, and I'm right on schedule. June 16th. All hell was bombed out of Japan yesterday, including Tokyo. That's good. Damn good. I got an A in the last German paper. Bruce and I checked in NAC's chemistry desk this afternoon. We had quite a brawl with Dickie Parker later this afternoon. Knocked off Russia this evening. Gave Hudson a little lesson. June 17th. Had my last class before finals this morning. I've worked on English history most of the day. We made some ginger ale coolers that were really fine. I had a big date with Duffy out in the Arb. Look out, son. June 18th. I didn't get up until 10:30 this morning and missed church. I've studied all day on calculus. I have the final at 8:10 in the morning, and it should be really fine. Nakata pulled out this afternoon. He's the fifth boy to leave the house for the service. Lots of luck, Roy. It's been over 90 degrees all day, hotter than all hell. June 19th. My calculus final this morning wasn't too bad, but I bobbled it. I'll probably get a C plus for the course. I worked on chemistry all afternoon with Tony. Theoretically, I studied more chemistry this evening. However, we raised just particular hell in the neighborhood. I hope I don't flub this stinking chemistry tomorrow because of it. June 20th. I got soaking wet this morning going to breakfast and slept for an hour and a half after breakfast and then studied chemistry until lunch. I got a C on the last chemistry blue book and think I hit the final fairly well for a change. I will probably get a C plus for the course. I got a stinking 60 on the calculus final and a C plus for the course. About all I deserved. I've been studying history all evening. Finals week is very damn boring. The weather has been much colder today. June 21st. I got up at 6 a.m. this morning to study for the history final and think I hit the history final okay. We played softball in the gym final. And I reread Emil this afternoon for the German final tomorrow. Duffy and I had a date this evening. We had some fine beer at Presti's and then had a terrific talk. I won't forget it for quite a while. The German final in the morning is the only thing that kept us from taking a 12 per. June 22. The German final this morning was okay except for the last question, which was damn tough. It rained this morning, so Duff and I didn't go to the quarry. We went to the Rec, the show, and then Presti's this evening. Took a 12 per and really had a fine time. Wayne Duff pulled out this afternoon for the summer. He's certainly a fine guy. This evening after I got back from Gables, Bruce, Tony, and I went up to ring the chapel bell. The rope broke after we'd only rung it once. Damn it all. Rather disgusted, we went down and dumped an armload of firewood on Dean Bosworth's front porch and came home. June 23rd. I worked breakfast and then went back to bed instead of the quarry because it was raining again. Andy and I borrowed Duffy's golf clubs and had a few holes until we both lost our balls. That was this afternoon after it had cleared up. I also helped Duffy with some moving this afternoon. I got a 78 on my history final and a B for the course. Tony and I went to the show because Duffy had gone to the lake with the girls. Later on, Bruce, Tony, Don Illig, and I went up and really rang hell out of the chapel bell. We had to steal a ladder in the process, and we dumped some more wood on Bosworth's front porch and came home. June 24th. This has been a very large day. It was finally clear, so Duffy and I went out to the quarry until 5. We had a fine old time swimming and getting lots of sun. Platt and I catched the champagne behind Mount Oberlin early this evening. Duffy and I went to the senior prom. The band was pretty good, and it was a pretty decent brawl. At intermission, Ed, Liz, Duff, and I went over on the porch of the cabin by Mount Oberlin and knocked off the quart of champagne. Really fine stuff. Didn't get back to the dance until 12:40. The women had 2:30 purrs. A very large and unusual evening. It's after 3:30 a.m. now. June 25th. I worked breakfast and then went out and played golf, shot in the low 70s for 9 holes. This afternoon, the folks came over and got most of my stuff. Hudson's folks came and got him this afternoon. This evening, Duff and I went to the show and then the Arboretum. I don't know whether to be sore at myself or sore at her for what happened. June 26th. Bruce and I didn't play golf this morning because it was raining. However, it was clear this afternoon, and Duff and I went out to the quarry this afternoon. Duff and I finally broke the ice about 5 o'clock. This evening we went to the show and then came back and sat on someone's swing for a while. She told me this evening that she loved me, but it is only love in the physical sense, so we'll both get over it all right. We've had some really fine times together this last term, and she'll be a fine wife for the sergeant. June 27th. I worked breakfast this morning by myself with quite a crowd. I got an A in gym and a C in quant for the term. I went to the graduation exercises this morning at Finney Chapel. It is a beautiful day and the ceremonies were very impressive. I saw the Duffy family beforehand and congratulated Duff afterwards. She's a fine girl and I doubt if I ever see her again. That's life. Bruce and I got packed up and hitchhiked over to Sandusky this afternoon. My German mark for the term is A. It gives me another 82.31 for the term. What a laugh. Mother said that Ginny Wirtz is engaged. It probably explains why she hasn't written. We had a delicious dinner and then went out to Uncle Fred Zook's for a swim. The water was fine. June 28th. I went uptown this afternoon in Sandusky and bought some things we'll need for the trip and got our traveler's checks. This evening we took a drive over to Lakeside, Ohio to see Barbara, Frederick, and John Stuckey. Very nice drive. June 29th. We left Sandusky this morning about 8 and got to Sycamore, Illinois about 7 this evening. We met some very fine people along the road. One Army lieutenant took us 200 miles. The Rees out here are getting older. Bruce and I went out to the municipal pool for a swim. We really ate tons and tons for dinner. Had a very pleasant talk with the Michelsons upstairs. We came 350 miles today. June 30th. We left Sycamore, Illinois this morning about 7:30 and then got stuck outside of DeKalb, Illinois for about an hour. The rides came very slowly all day. The fourth detour we hit was really a dandy. There had been a cloudburst in the neighborhood and all of the bridges in the neighborhood had been washed out. It took us about 30 miles out of our way. This evening about 7, we thought we were stuck for the night about 135 miles from Des Moines, Iowa. However, luck was with us again, and we got a ride through to Des Moines with some black market tire dealers who were going from 70 to 80 miles an hour all the way. I've never ridden so fast in my life. We got out to Needham's about 10:30 this evening. The girls had a regular smorgasbord ready for us, really fine. We were all very tired and went to bed shortly after midnight. We took baths as soon as we arrived, and we were really filthy. This morning I left the pipe that Duffy gave me in someone's car. That really made me very sad. We came 300 miles today. July 1st, 1944. Mrs. Needham fixed a really fine breakfast for us. Then we went out and played some golf, which was rather stinky. We had lunch and then went out to one of the country club pools late this afternoon. It was a fine pool, and the scenery just splashed all over the place. This evening we had 5 women and 2 men, so we went up to the USO and got 3 sailors. We all went over to Val Air and danced to Carl Bean and his horny band. It's an open-air floor which has all of the name bands occasionally. For instance, Sonny Dunham will be there over the 4th. We all came back to the house from some sandwiches and Pepsi, and we finally knocked it off about 2:30 a.m. July 2nd. We got up about 9 o'clock this morning and hit the road about 11. The Needhams have really shown us a wonderful time. Rides went fairly well all day until we hit North Bend, Nebraska. We were stranded there for an hour and a half. A truck finally picked us up and brought us all the way to Kearney. We helped him unload part of his load at Grand Island. We didn't get to Oberlin to Kearney until 1:15. So we just picked out a nice looking porch and here we are. We came about 325 miles. July 3rd. We got up at 6 o'clock a.m. so that we wouldn't run into the people who owned the porch we were sleeping on. We were both very tired and very dirty. The first ride brought us to Gothenburg. It was on a truck that was hauling 3 small buildings. We climbed into the largest of the 3 and came on through. Gothenburg, Nebraska is a very quiet but comfortable western town. We got cleaned up, ate breakfast, and then I fell asleep out on the porch. We ate dinner and then both went to bed until 6:30. This evening we had a picnic lunch in one of Gothenburg's 7 parks. The red-haired girl who visited Carolyn in Oberlin made the 4th. She has a husband who was in the Solomon Islands in the Pacific Ocean with the Naval Air Corps. She's a fine kid and a very good dancer. We came back to the house and danced to some records. Because of Carolyn's folks, we knocked it off about 11. Now for a good night's sleep. We only came 60 miles today. July 4th. We had a fine breakfast this morning and pulled out of Gothenburg about 10:30 a.m. The rides went very slowly until 2 o'clock p.m. when we picked up a ride going clear through to San Francisco. However, we will drop off at Salt Lake City for a day. The country has changed very abruptly from east to west. The land is getting rocky and mountainous, and the towns are farther apart. Bruce and I both drove about 50 miles this afternoon. Right now we're in a tourist cabin in Laramie, Wyoming. Before I forget it, I want to say that the Sholins are really swell people and treated us royally. We came 310 miles today. July 5th. We ate breakfast and got started this morning about 6:45. The country gradually changed all day, becoming more and more mountainous all the time. Late this afternoon, we really got into some beautiful stuff. High snow-topped peaks, narrow canyons with cliffs rising on both sides, a fast turbulent mountain stream, etc. I drove about 50 miles this morning and then about 115 this afternoon from Green River to Evanston, Wyoming. It took me nearly 3 hours. The terrain was rugged and the roads bad. I'll never forget the truck I passed on the outside edge of a curve on a gravel road. More luck than skill. Very good driving experience. I bought a new pipe and cashed the first traveler's check in Green River. Both the roads and the scenery are much better in Utah. The Salt Lake has turned the country around here into a great fertile valley. The countryside is green again. We got into Salt Lake City, Utah about 6:30. Found there was no YMCA, so we got this room in the new Utah Hotel. We walked around town getting strange glances all over the place. Ate, went to the show, bowled 3 games, and came back here. It's too late to do the washing, so we're knocking it off. We came 440 miles today. July 6th. We got up about 9 o'clock. I wrote letters while Bruce was getting his hair cut. We went to the state capitol and went clear through the place, including the topmost cranny of the dome. The janitor let us go up, and it was a real experience. You could see for miles. Then we went on a tour through the Mormon temple grounds. This was extremely interesting and instructive. I've never heard the tenets of the Mormon faith before. Then we tore back to our hotel to get checked out by 3 o'clock. On the way, we sent candy and flowers to Mrs. Sholin and Mrs. Needham, respectively. We hitched out to the lake and took a swim. This was a unique experience. You just can't sink in the stuff. It's tough apples if you get any of it in your eyes. It's really salty. We hitchhiked from the lake to Wendover. Our second ride was with a man named Bud Fisher, who talked us into routing ourselves through the Northwest, too. We've changed our itinerary quite a bit. Wendover is a small town on the Utah-Nevada border, which is built around the Army Air Base here. We had some trouble finding a room. We finally got one directly behind a building which houses a running electric turbine. However, I don't think the noise will bother us because we're both dead. We came 100 miles today. July 7th. This has really been a tough day and night. It took us 2.5 hours to get a 50-mile ride out of Wendover over to Wells. Then we waited another 2.5 hours out in the hot sun at Wells with no luck. So we flagged a Wells Ellie bus which went by and rode the 140 miles to Ellie. On the way, we ran into a rainstorm in central Nevada. There were 5 people on the bus, including us. One of them was a Reverend Nita, who knew both Father Daniels and Dr. Holmes from Oberlin. As Duffy always said, you never know. In Ellie, we got our ride to Las Vegas with a welder who had $600 in bonds, his car, and a rifle stolen from him the last time he picked up hitchhikers. Bruce and I took turns sitting in the front seat and keeping him awake. The elevation fell off sharply all the way down to Las Vegas. Dropped about 7,000 feet to be exact. The country has changed once again. We're in real desert country now with gulches, gullies, lizards, cacti, etc. We got to Las Vegas about 6 o'clock a.m. and found a cabin with a shower. We went uptown for breakfast. I just finished my shower and I'm really ready for bed. We came 500 miles today, July 8th. I got up at 2:30 and did my washing. This terrific heat had it dry in about half an hour. It has been 104 degrees today, hellish hot. This is quite a town. The army base just outside of town keeps it filled with soldiers. The place is lousy with slot machines. The heat is almost unbearable. I bought some stuff for my chapped lips. Finally had another meal this evening. We went to the funniest shows this evening I've seen for a while. Today has been just a matter of doing some routine things and getting caught up on the rest. July 9th. We got up this morning and waited 2 hours before we got a ride to Boulder City. We waited 2.5 hours in Boulder City with no luck. Incidentally, Boulder City is the most beautiful little town we've seen in Nevada. There are green trees and green grass, nice homes, shade, and just everything you wouldn't expect in Nevada. Just before catching the bus out of Boulder City, we met a young Army gunner who knows both Frank Simpson and Bob Schroeder in Oberlin. A fine guy. The bus ride over to Kingman was positively the hottest ride I've ever had. We passed over the Boulder Dam while on the bus. It's a magnificent sight and a real feat of engineering. We were convoyed across by police to make sure we didn't sabotage the place. Lake Mead is also quite a sight. Beautiful blue water out here in the desert. Despite the heat, some of the scenery is very worthwhile. We hitchhiked for 2 hours more in Kingman with no luck. There's an Army air base just outside of town, so the town is filled with Army men and their wives. Naturally, there were no rooms available, so we slept in the bus that brought us over from Boulder City. Bruce got the back seat. Hope we don't get caught. We came 100 miles. July 10th. We got up at 6 o'clock this morning, had breakfast, and hit the road. We walked a mile or so up the road to a state inspection station where we hoped to get a ride more easily. The officers would help soldiers, but not civilians. Very ornery about it, in fact. Dirty skunks. I haven't shaved in 4 days, so I slipped into a filling station and shaved. The owner came in to shave just as I was finishing, so I had to pull a hurry-up job. Darn funny. We waited for 5 hours without a ride to the Grand Canyon, so we started hitchhiking both ways, to the canyon and to Los Angeles. We finally gave up the Grand Canyon idea altogether and caught a ride back to Kingman. Bruce called home and everything is still okay. After lunch, we started hitchhiking west on Route 66 toward Los Angeles. The sun was really hot. After 3 hours, we got a ride to Oatman with a soldier. This is a small town of gold miners. However, nearly all of the mines are not working for the duration. This is absolutely the deadest town I've ever seen. Hardly a sound anywhere. We ran into some nice people at a filling station who said that every so often a green truck comes through which goes all the way to Los Angeles. It stops and picks up hitchhikers here. However, he hasn't come through yet tonight. Before I forget it, I want to mention the road from Kingman to Oatman. It is just one continuous up and down hairpin turn. We each had a Tom Collins this afternoon. We had to buy our own lemons and take them to the bartender. Not too bad. 2 young girls came up to see us this evening and asked us to a dance up the street. There were 6 girls and we made 4 boys. 2 of the girls were Mexican or Indian. The music was lousy, but we had fun. The girls told us that none of them were under 15. Then we went down for a swim in the town's galvanized swimming pool. Very nice. We are sleeping in the firehouse tonight. We have the deputy sheriff's permission, and we came 30 miles. July 11th. We didn't get up until 10 o'clock this morning because the man at the filling station said he would call us if any rides came along. We ate breakfast at the Grade C establishment and then went down to the pool for a swim. The pool was covered with yellow wasps, but the water was fine. Through the heat of the day, we slept back in the firehouse. Bruce hasn't been feeling very well. It might be the water around here. A sailor came along this afternoon, and we all three began hitchhiking late this afternoon. Shortly after supper, the woman who works at the drugstore said that her sister was driving to Needles and would take us. We had a fine time singing on the way over. We got into Needles, California, and planted ourselves on the other side of town. We are all set to stay up all night hitchhiking if necessary. It would be much easier to get to Los Angeles at night than the daytime because of the desert, and we came 42 miles. July 12th. About 10 o'clock last night, a fellow came hurrying up to us saying that he had to get a ride to L.A. and wanted to know if this was a good place. He said that he had been under the influence of marijuana for the past 9 days and didn't have enough money to get to L.A. In these 9 days, he had been visited by dreams which were utterly fantastic, but part of which were true. He was deeply disturbed. The one thing that made me put any faith in his story was that he said that he was a symphony violinist, and he also knew his music inside and out. About 11 o'clock, we picked up a ride going through to L.A. We had to leave our musician pal behind because there was only room for 3. Early this morning, we got out of the desert and into the mountains again. We saw quite a few orange and palm trees. Until about noon, there was a heavy fog all over the place. We finally got to Los Angeles and found our way out to the Cooks. They have a large, beautiful home and a very nice little Scotty dog. We got cleaned up and then came downstairs for brunch. This afternoon, we went out to see Tommy Zook. We had some trouble getting there, but finally made it all right. Uncle Tom is looking brown and fine. He took us into the barracks, and we had a good old talk for about an hour or so. We came back to the Cooks for dinner, and then got fitted up here at the house with some jackets. Since most of the Cook family was going out this evening, we spent the evening with Tommy. We started at the Trocadero, and ended up in what Tommy called, quote, a dive. It was a terrific evening, and we all had a wonderful time. Tommy had a civilian pal, Bud, who had a car and made a foursome, also a fine guy. I had 1 beer, 2 slow gin fizzes, 1 Tom Collins, 1 straight gin, and part of 1 rye and ginger ale. The whole bunch of it didn't bother either Bruce or I at all. To finish things off, Tommy took us to a small place which had the most deliciously different food I've ever tasted. Toasted French bread, buttered halves of baked potatoes, delicious hamburger with onions. It was a delightful evening, and I feel as if we've really seen the night spots of Los Angeles. Tommy was a fine host and seemed to know everyone. After all, as he said, I've been here 5 weeks now. On the way home, I stopped off and bowled 2 games. We saw the famous Wilshire and Sunset Boulevards, MGM Studios, etc. today. We got a hitch back to the house and fell into bed at 2:30 a.m., and we came 200 miles last night. To be continued. So that concludes today's presentation of John S. Ray's Oberlin College Diary, Part 6, including the beginning of the summer of 1944. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.